Hey, welcome back for another talk. I'm here with Jude. I'm the oldest. As you probably know, I've been on a few of these. I'm the oldest in our family of 13 boys and one girl. Jude is number 5. So he's seen nearly all of the history.
Not quite as much as you.
Yeah, not quite as much.
It's a lot.
I don't know if Jude doesn't show up quite as much lately on these types of things. He's so much behind the camera. Yeah. I don't know if there's a guy that has more on his plate than Jude. He's also a full-time court reporter, videographer. He's been doing sound design and things like that, dubbing, so a lot of things. So it's great to have Jude to talk today. We've been asked a lot of questions over the years because we do have a uniquely sized family, and we are very, very close. And we run businesses together. We did homeschooling. Today we're going to be talking about 5 benefits of being in a big family. At the end, I'm going to tack on the last one is a new one I actually just thought of recently. And I'll tell you at the end, but it's one that kind of pertains to what's about to happen in our family that we haven't experienced yet, but I can see the writing on the wall. And I told you about it before, but I won't squeal on it now. In a big family, you learn pretty quickly not to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I think one thing that is good about a big family, I think you just kind of learn how you fit in. You realize that, oh wait, like I put things in context a little, that, hey, my issues, that's not the only thing going on around here. There are a lot of things going on. Sure. So it can't be that important in a way, unless, it can't be that important if there are, 10 other people also going through things. And you kind of see other people in your family go through things and realize that, hey, I'm going through it now, but, they were at this age just a little while ago. Maybe I can get some support from them, get some perspective. That you aren't the whole show, that you're just part of a bigger team.
Yeah, because I think you can go too far in each direction, because maybe the stereotype is like, if someone had a huge family and like, these kids are neglected, they're just like frizzy-haired running around and you don't have time for each person. I think if done right, it is a really nice balance, because we got a lot of individual attention, but we also had those constant reminders, or like, I kind of think of like bumpers in a bowling alley, like when they put the bumpers up, and you go too far one way, it kind of bounces you back a little bit.
That's cheating, I think.
Yeah, that might
be cheating.
I think so. I think it's a little too
Sorry
easy.
to get off on that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think that's not real bowling if you're just hitting off the bumpers. Yeah, but I think it is kind of like that, because you might, as soon as somebody gets too much into themselves, then you might realize, there are other people. Or maybe mom would say, hey, like, honey, you got to wait a second. I got to talk to so-and-so. Or like, hey, you got to share. We only have enough for, share that video game. Like, we only have enough money for one game, so you guys got to share. So I think in those ways, it really helped to kind of balance us out, hopefully.
One thing about, I think, having perspective when you're in a big family and not taking yourself too seriously, at least in my case, I feel I had more the mindset of abundance instead of scarcity. That in a way, there's enough time for me that I don't have to worry about it too much. And in a sense, I don't know the best way to put this. I hope I can land it. But I don't know. I don't need to have a lot. It doesn't take that much to make me happy type of perspective. And so you don't need everyone's attention. You don't need to inflate your small problem to fill the whole day.
Well, just one more example before we go on to the next thing. I've noticed this with, and I don't mean this as a criticism, but just people who don't have any siblings. Often they will not know in a way like where they're supposed to end. Like I have one example I can share of a friend who actually played on a sports team, and he was supposed to play in an all-day tournament with his team he committed to play with. And apparently he played one game and then just said, I don't feel like playing anymore. And he just left and kind of left his team in a jam. He basically just didn't personally feel like it. And I think I got the idea he just kind of grew up that way, that he was used to like, I don't want to do this anymore. Here, I'll go. I'm just leaving, and not thinking as a team. So that's a perfect example that he just kind of left the others high and dry accidentally. I don't think he even meant to, but he was used to like his feelings or what he wanted to do in the moment kind of ruling the day. Okay, I guess the second thing I'll bring up is when you're in a big family, at least for me, I found that I quickly got over the idea of being like self-conscious or embarrassed, because I think a lot of people go through life, you don't want to stand out, especially as like a teenager. You don't want to be the weirdo or do something out of the ordinary. And I think, at least for me, being in a big family, early on, like we were thrown in front of, I don't mean like thrown in a bad way, but we had news stories done and things like that. And I remember the very first time I was like upset because I was just, for that period, we were going to a local school instead of homeschooling. And my number one goal, maybe as a 15-year-old or something, was like, hey, just fit in. Like, how am I going to do in this atmosphere and everything? And then suddenly they're doing news stories and like, I'm like, oh man, that's not cool, is it? Oh, will I look cool? That type of thing. But or like even things like going shopping and getting dropped off in a 15-seater van as a self-conscious teenager with a bunch of siblings. And now I look back like so fond at those. I wish I could have every one of those moments, like do it over and over again. But I found it did in a way put me through that school quickly in a way of not being self-conscious. Did you have anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, a big thing is that you do get over embarrassment, I feel, because I grew up going to the grocery store and having this train of grocery carts. I mean, hey, we had a lot of kids to feed.
Oh, yeah.
So you might have, it would be nothing to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 grocery carts, you know, filled with cereal, everything you need. And, you know, as a teenager, as an adolescent, that, you know, that didn't always work out real well, but you just kind of had to get over it, put it in context and realize, hey, what do I have to be afraid of? Like, hey, I don't know, I guess it did make me not have to worry so much about fitting in. I guess I just got over it quickly. Hopefully, honestly, because of good parenting and being close with mom and dad, they helped me kind of see the full picture.
Do you remember the first time you went shopping for the family?
Oh man, I mean, I would be one of the guys who would do a lot of the grocery shopping, honestly, especially during the family house building project. I was often the one staying back. I was like 15 years old, and so I would be the babysitter. And so I would often go to like, you know, the grocery store, like buying wholesale. And those were some big shopping expeditions. And yeah, definitely I had to just kind of get over self-consciousness because, hey, I was going to do it anyway. I'd joke about it. People would say like, oh, wow, like, are you thirsty? Like having 8 gallons of milk. I heard that one a few times. I heard it a few times. I thought, hey, why not embrace it? Like, what's there to be self-conscious about? Like, hey, just get over it. Just have fun. Like, you know. And as you grow up, I think you find out that everyone's just a single person. It's not like all the other people are like deciding, how are we going to take this? Like, is he cool? Is he not cool?
Yeah.
So I think as we've grown up, we've started to see that, hey, being confident and comfortable in your own skin is very attractive. And that is cool, or whatever anyone can define as cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, before we jump on to the next thing, I have a grocery story to tell. I, of course, am the oldest. So when I got my driver's license on my 16th birthday, I immediately was like the first string grocery shopper.
Oh, that's right.
And mom and dad were happy to have someone do it, and I was happy to do it just to get to go out and drive.
Yeah, sure.
But I was at times, at the very beginning, I was very self-conscious sometimes, because a common list would be like, 8 gallons of milk, 23 boxes of cereal, maybe 8 cases of Diet Coke, maybe 10 bags of chips or something. And I used to like try to minimize the embarrassment. Like I'd say, okay, like maybe I'll go casually put a few gallons of milk in there and then maybe cover it with a few other things and later put in some other ones. And but then soon something just like clicked in me where I was like, wait, I'm gonna instead like embrace this. Like people are getting a kick out of it. If they're at all awkward, it's because they think like, oh, I don't want to, that dumb teenager looks embarrassed, so I'm not gonna embarrass him. But as soon as I laughed about it, then it gave everybody else permission to laugh. And I even got a kick out of like just kind of see, like in a way just like stacking it up and just saying, oh, I wonder who the person's going to comment. And it became really fun, and we got to know everybody at the grocery stores. So but I don't know if I ever would have, jumped out of my comfort zone that quickly, if not for like necessity. Like those are the people I like the most, is when they are very comfortable in their own skin and not self-conscious, just embracing like who they are and what's unique about them.
I think one more thing is that it makes you have to, in a way, confront your self-consciousness. If you are self-conscious about something, it at least made me start to think like, wait, like, okay, why am I worried about someone looking at me if I have 2 grocery carts or a whole bunch of gallons of milk? And it just, I guess maybe it helped develop that side of me where I kind of got to the root of it and realized, like, hey, like it only goes so deep. Like, what are they going to think? Like I don't know, seriously, like, what would the concern be? Would it be like, oh, you're not acting aloof enough, you care too much about your family that you're going to go.
Well,
Obviously, like, it gets silly once you confront it, and it got silly once I confronted it. Like, it started to kind of mature me in that way.
Yeah. And I got to where, like, I literally, like, to this day, I don't want to, one of my biggest fears is being normal in a way. Like, I don't want, like, what is normal? Like, I don't mean I just want to, like, be a weirdo for the sake of being a weirdo.
Yeah, or like be notorious for no reason.
But like I guess I don't want to just live like the most average life possible. I want to like live it to the fullest, or like something should look weird if you're like an entrepreneur and an innovator, and not to connect everything to just shopping as a teenager. But I mean, that's kind of how I look at it in general, is that I've actually kind of gone the other way where I don't want to be normal. You know, I don't want to just be like, okay, the average guy my age, this much overweight or this much such and such, without hopefully getting into like going too far the other way, but just more like wanting to do the best I can while I'm on Earth. So, okay, Jude, what's another one?
Well, one obvious one is that you always, in a big family, had a lot of people around and had someone to play ball with, play board games with. And that's like one of the easy ones in a way, like the obvious ones, that hey, there are a lot of people, you can do a lot of things. A lot of it, I think, was that we were close with each other. And also, I think mom and dad helped keep us close. It was an era where you would do more activities outdoors. And with a lot of boys, we would be very sporty. We'd go out and have neighborhood wiffle ball games, basketball games, everything.
I bet you felt that, especially since you were one of the guys most into sports.
Sure, and I was number 5. So there were 4 brothers ahead of me, and like 4 guys already there, ready to play with me.
Even to this day, I mean, I'll just text somebody, like Jacob, for instance. We have a tradition of playing catch and just strengthening our arms and doing long toss on our ball field or on the street. Yeah. And I'll just, on a whim, just say, hey, catch time, and I'll text him. And maybe 50% of the time he's around, and we'll just like meet outside.
It reminds me of being in like a close neighborhood where you live nearby and you're close with the people who live nearby. And thankfully that's how our life has gone so far. We're trying to. I think since everyone grew up close, I think everyone is eager to stay relatively close. Obviously you need some privacy, some space, but I think everyone's eager to stay close, and that has made it easier to just fire off a message like, hey, can anyone help me with this? Mary Elizabeth, she can ask like, hey, does anyone have this ingredient? Or is someone going into town? Yeah. Like, people are constantly coming and going. So not only socially of like, hey, anyone want to do something fun, but just practically like, hey, can anyone help me out? I'm stuck in a ditch. Like, someone's probably 5 minutes away. Or hey, can someone get something from the grocery store? Can someone grab me a soda? Or whatever it is.
That's so true.
Yeah, that's just been a great thing. And a lot of that does come from not only just quantity of people in your family, but just from being close and fighting to stay close and nearby and kind of build something bigger for future generations too.
Yeah, we should add that too, that it's not even about the number of people in your family. It's really the closeness, because we've all seen very close, small families. Obviously, most close families are a lot smaller than ours. But then we can all, well, I don't know if we all can, but I can think of examples of families that are just big, but they're chaotic, or maybe it's just like just really messed up in a lot of ways. And I'm not even saying that's because it's a big family, but really the main valuable thing, whatever the size, is closeness.
And yeah, like you said, it's not so much about the quantity of people. As a good friend once said, and it was complimentary to mom and dad, talking about the family, saying like, hey, it's not the number of people, it's the kind of people. And that was I think that was really a compliment, and thankfully he said it in a good way. So it's not like we're saying, hey, we advocate for you to have. I think it's a great idea to welcome kids. I certainly want to. It's not about those saying, hey, everyone must have big families or that something's wrong, but just that, hey, whether small or large, of course, naturally, like, hey, it's about the kind of person you are.
One thing that's really wonderful about a big, close family, it's not just big, but it's a close family in general, is your spending power. Your money goes a lot farther. Just as an example here, as of right now, we all live very near or relatively nearby. So we're able to share things like we have this giant tractor that no one person would buy on their own.
Right, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, or like the mowers, or like we have a big skid steer, like one of those dirt moving machines that we make roads and things like that, push down trees. And I mean, that'd be a big expense for one person. But together, like, or like one last example, we actually have like a motorhome type thing as a family. And there's no way any of us could just afford that or justify it on our own unless you were just constantly traveling. But let's say you have something that's $50,000, instead of one person finding a way to pay for that or finance it, you could have 10 people or 20 people splitting that up.
Right. And not only does it help your dollar go farther and help you collectively be able to do bigger things, but you also get a whole lot more use out of it. So that's one example, just that you can kind of, in a way, in a lot of ways, not just with money, but you can also attack a problem altogether. You can definitely swarm a problem.
Yeah.
Like if something's needed, like we've done a lot of landscaping around these properties, and thank God we get to be out here. But we've like had times where, hey, like it's crunch time. We need to plant the grass before the storm comes in a day. And so, you know, something that'd be backbreaking for me or you just to head up. Instead, you get like 5 or 10 volunteers. Oh, yeah. And not only is it efficient and like getting work done, but it ends up being like a mini party.
Yeah.
In a way, like everyone gets an excuse. You get kind of like, I don't know, I guess this is more than like the bullet points we're trying to hit, but
just
it's
order
like
some pizzas and have everybody out
yeah,
there.
Yeah, it becomes a rich experience, not just like, oh, I have to work, I have to do this, but it becomes honestly kind of like the whistle while you work thing.
Yeah, one other example on that topic is we had this family we knew growing up, and they would have like each person in the family would have their own video game, own duplicate, like maybe Mario Brothers, and then this other sibling had Mario Brothers, and this other one had the same game. And it was just because they wanted to all be able to always be able to use it right then, and kind of be in their own worlds in a way.
Right, their own copy.
Yeah, and in a way, like for part of me when I was little, I thought, oh, wow, that'd be neat to have like my own such and such, my own game or whatever. But early on, I found out that, okay, we simply can't afford that. We were very, very tight on money. And we would instead get one video game, let's say for my birthday. Like my whole big present was one game. But everybody else felt like it was theirs too, because we would all play together. Yeah. And we weren't possessive. We very quickly learned, hey, don't be possessive of it, because your brother's going to get a game next time. And if it's all of ours, then suddenly I have 10 or 20 games instead of 2 games.
Exactly. Like for every, of course you get one birthday, but if you have 9 other kids who are also having birthdays throughout the year, and you get a cut of that, it kind of works out.
That's right.
Not only that, but with video games in particular, I know we grew up liking multiplayer games more, and just because, hey, you have people to play with, you really get a lot out of that.
Yeah, and the video games are a perfect example, because you don't lose any. Like we still have those games from the 1980s or 90s now.
Like to fire them up once in a while.
Yeah, and they're still perfectly usable now, so we lost nothing by sharing them. In fact, it would enhance the fun so many times over because we were playing together.
Yeah, seriously.
This feels like walking down memory lane. It's been really fun just talking about this. Okay, we have one more as promised, and this one is a little more future oriented. As of this filming, I haven't experienced this. None of us have experienced it, but we can see the writing on the wall. There are some aren't grandbabies on the way. And I got thinking the other day, they're going to have so many babysitters. You think about that. Like when I was a baby, I was the first baby in our family. So my mom and dad always said how like I basically never touched the ground for the first, like I don't think I even knew how to walk until I was, I don't know, like 5 or something.
That's right, because mom
maybe
had
like 1 or 1.5. I don't know.
Mom had 9 siblings too.
Yeah.
8 girls, 2 boys.
So they just like passed me around, and I was just like, I was so fat and like I could barely move and everything. They called me the Michelin Man after the
the
Michelin
rolls.
mascot. Yeah, but I just got thinking like, man, we're going to have that like multiplied over, because we have a larger family, and especially for the first grandkids. I mean, they're just going to have. Oh, and the big thing too is everybody lives nearby as of right now. So it's going to be so easy to like have all the cousins, like leave them at grandma's or at Uncle Paul's or Uncle Jude's, but still be like nearby and like on the main premises roughly. Wow. So it's just going to be, I thought, man, that's going to be so neat. And that's just something I never really thought of growing up, but it's going to be so neat to see that soon.
Oh yeah. It's going to be so awesome. It's going to be a chance for the parents to get a lot of breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Really, it'll probably be a real benefit, a real blessing to them. Because hey, like, you know, I mean, I've never been a parent. I hope to be, but I can tell that, of course, mom and dad, like how hard they worked, and just think if like every time if you need it, if you could just have someone who's just aching to come over and spend time with the little chubs, we call them chubs, little babies.
Yeah.
Then
good.
I mean that really helps them too.
You mentioned the term chub, and
Yes.
there's only one. The original chub is the nickname came from our number 7, Philip, who was like a chubby little. He looked kind of like Winnie the Pooh. He had a blonde, buzzed haircut, and just like a little belly that would kind of stick out, and he was just really happy and innocent. And so my uncle Mike called him Chub. Like he would go up and chub his cheeks, like squish his cheeks, and say, "Oh, Chub, Chubber." And so we started calling him Chub. And then every child after that, when they were a baby, they were a chub. Yeah. And even now, I don't know if mom occasionally says the chub. So when it's the younger,
she might.
like the younger 4, I think might be permanently chubs.
She's ready for grandkids.
Yeah. So anyway, that's look up. Philip, the original chub, is actually getting married this year. So maybe by the time you watch this, he may have said I do, and maybe in the next year or 2 there will be a Chub Junior. I don't know. Well, this has been fun. I think Jude and I need to get back to work, but we appreciate you guys being with us again. We're going to be doing these every week. It'll be different members of the family. As you've seen, it's been a big variety, and we'll be doing these constantly. So let us know in the comments if you guys want us to talk about anything in particular, and feel free to like or subscribe if you like the content.